Hey, Bob from Atlanta. How are you? If you guys can hear me, please let me know how the mic sounds. That sounds okay. I need to adjust anything before we get going here. Gonna grab my swig of coffee before we move on. Give me a thumb up if you can hear me. And I said thumb, not finger. Excellent. That's okay. When someone gives me the finger, I just say, "Oh, I'm still number one," so that's good. Hello, Jenny Brown. Welcome, welcome. You'll see me in 3.5 minutes. Just look at the timer on your screen, and you'll see it. I always chat ahead of time with everyone over the countdown. Kathy, how are you? Kathy, do you have a middle name, or is your name hyphenated? Because I have a cousin named Kathy Kane Gray. Kathy K. Gray. Interesting. So it's close though. My cousin's middle name is Kane. Kane. Good morning, T. Jones. How are you this morning? Excellent. We are 2.5 minutes out. Good morning, Claire. How are you this morning? Simply amazing, T. Jones. Well said. Good morning, Jim Evans. Yeah, I always start 5 minutes early so I can do all my tech and make sure everything's working. And it gives me 5 minutes of drinking some more coffee and dealing with all that stuff before it goes live. And then, of course, I have it set so as soon as that countdown's done, it throws right to my face, and sometimes it catches me off guard. I'll try not to do that this morning. 'Me too. Me too. It's just for me. It's just fun time having the little chats before the show. It's just time to be a little goofy and enjoy my last few moments of not being seen. 'I also kind of like being the voice out there in the ethers. 30 seconds coming up. Hey, I made a little closer video just like I did the new intro last week. This week I'll have a new closer as well. I'm enjoying playing with my toys. Well, yeah, because when the show starts, I'm animatronic. Welcome to the Live Loving live stream with John Davis. Good morning. The animatronic John is in the house. Hello and welcome to the Live Loving live stream. It is an absolute pleasure to be here with you guys today. I think we're going to have a good time today. Good to be back. I'm really excited. But of course, we're going to start with a joke, just because it's the best way to start every day. So this is a thinker joke. This is going to make you think a little bit, I hope, anyway. So Susan was a person seeking spiritual connection. She wanted peace and tranquility. She traveled all over the world looking for peace and tranquility. She looked for the next teacher to show her the way, the next person who had the method to get there. She went to churches and mosques and temples and ashrams to study. And one day, while wandering the streets of Bangladesh, a Hindu woman walked up to her and she said, "What you seek is within." Susan yelled back, "Within what? I don't understand." The Hindu woman looked at the outskirts of town, and there on the outskirts of town was a mountain, and she pointed at that mountain, and she said, "Go to that mountain, climb to the top. There you will find an ancient guru. He will show you the way." Well, Susan had been wanting this her entire life. She dropped her luggage right where she stood and ran to the mountain. She started climbing that mountain. She got to the top. It was a struggle to get to the top. It was painful at times, and as she climbed to the top, there were several close calls, but finally she crested the summit, and there she stood on the top of the mountain, and she could feel the beautiful air blowing on her hair, but she suddenly heard the sound, and it was a gentle chanting coming from somewhere nearby. She looked around and saw a small cave. She goes into that cave, and there, sitting on the ground, is the ancient guru chanting. And she says, "Teacher, please, show me the way to inner peace and tranquility." And his chanting got louder and louder. And she says, "Please show me the way." And the guru's smiling eyes opened, and he looked at her in the face, and she said, "Shh. If you were here, you'd be Om now." So think about that one for a bit. There's a lot in that actual joke, because I read the joke and it was 2 lines, and I was like, oh no, there's so much more in this joke that's not there. So I wanted to share that with you this morning. I hope that was fun for you. It was definitely fun for me. Good morning, Charlene. I hope you're doing well. Let's see. Okay, I'm back. Anyway, so welcome, as I said, to the Live Loving live stream. It's been an interesting couple weeks here for me. One of the things I'd like to talk about before we dive into a back and forth conversation, which is my favorite part of Live Loving live streams, is our back and forth conversation. But the thing I want to talk about today is something I call the timeline of appreciation. The timeline of appreciation. We have many influential people in our lives that come along. For me, my godparents were very big, influential people in my life. They took me all over theme parks, and I spent a lot of time in my childhood with my godparents. But it was several months ago, I got an intuition that I should just call them. And I called them. I actually called my sister first. I said, "Is that something wrong?" I asked my sister if there was something wrong. Not that I know of. I said, "Do you have their number?" So I got their number, and I called them. And I had the chance to tell them what they meant to me. And it was really a wonderful experience, right? A couple months before that, I was at, actually, it was a couple years before that, I was at a memorial for my mother. And I specifically sat with my godparents so that I could talk to them for the entire meal. And while we were there, I got a chance to tell them, show my appreciation then as well. So I had a couple of really good times of showing my appreciation to them. There are people in our lives all the time and throughout our lives who have meant a great deal to us, right? And to live a loving life means you share what they mean to you. You share, you give them that positive reinforcement. I remember years and years and years ago, I had been on the road for a long time. I'd been doing a whole bunch of stuff, and in my household, we never said "I love you" a lot. It was not something I actually remember hearing in my childhood. And I remember when I had come to the point where I was like, I realized that I just have to be loving. I have, no matter what. And I remember the day that I told my mother I loved her. I was easily in my mid to late 40s when it happened. When I said to her, I love you. And she stuttered. She didn't know how to respond. And after I said that, my relationship with my mother got really good. My relationship with my mother got really good. We were able to talk about anything. We would talk about deep spiritual topics. We would talk about what was going on in her life. We would talk about, what's going to happen when she passes. We talked about everything. And I don't think it ever would have happened if I didn't say those simple words, I love you. And hearing her stutter was huge because it was something that was suppressed within her, something that she couldn't say. It was something she didn't say. And when I think back about her mother was very, I would say prim and proper, but I would say more of a tight, she was just like, I honestly felt like she looked down her nose at us. And there's other stories behind that too, but that are really interesting. But the point was that by coming out and telling my mother that, everything got better. By telling my godparents that before they passed, they had an experience here of knowing what the good they've done. I tell my son every day, at least twice, when he's with me anyway, that I love him because I don't want him to have the experience that I had with my family, where I didn't hear the word I love you ever. It just wasn't said. And I don't want my son to have that experience, so I tell him every day, at least twice, right? And I think it's important. I think it's important that we let the people know how much we appreciate them in our life, because we are who we are because of the experience we have here, and those experiences we have, positive or negative, come from the people in our life. And there are many people in my life who've given me negative experiences, and I appreciate them too. I don't have to go back and tell them that, but I appreciate that I'm much stronger. In that joke I told, she climbed the mountain and she had struggles and tribulations and close calls, and she got to the top, and then the guru basically is telling her that Om is within you. It's you coming to an inner peace within yourself. And oftentimes by giving appreciation to someone else, you're giving them the chance to have that inner peace and tranquility. You're giving them the chance to go, oh, I did do good things. Oh, I don't have to be stressed about doing what's right all the time. I have achieved some good things in my life. And that's important because we all need positive reinforcement sometimes, and we all need to know the good things that we do in life. We all need to understand that we have an effect. One of my favorite Christmas movies, makes me cry every year, is It's a Wonderful Life. And that story is great because he never, George Bailey did not realize how the small actions, the small things that he did in life affected everything. Everything. And that's how your life is. The small things that you do in life affect everything. The way you walk through life, with a furrowed brow or a smile, it affects everything around you. I remember at one time walking through a grocery store with my third wife's aunt, and she was mentally challenged, let's just put it that way, but she could not stand being in public at all. And so I took her to the grocery store, and we're walking through the grocery store. This woman came walking by really fast, and I could just see that the woman was in a hurry. So of course, I didn't think anything of it because I don't get offended that way. And her aunt was immediately offended. And the next aisle came by, and that woman came by us again really fast. And she said something horrible to the woman. And the woman looked at me, she says, I'm so sorry. I said, dude, don't worry about it. It's fine. But that woman could feel the anger and the animosity coming from the aunt, and I was there to give her a smile and say it's okay. Sometimes that's good too. That moment of being the one who says, "You got this. You're okay." That can be appreciated too, and you should be able to appreciate that you have the choice of being the Om in your life, being the calm, being the serenity, being the inner tranquility, being the inner peace yourself. You have that ability in every moment of every day. It's a choice. And if you choose to be that inner tranquility, that inner peace, the people around you will feel that inner tranquility and peace. If you were here, you'd be Om now. You'd be in that Om space, Om, right? You'd be in that space of inner peace and tranquility, no matter if you climbed a mountain or not. Right where you are, right here, right now, you have that ability. And the people who struggle in life and the people who have helped us come along through our struggles, they have that choice too, but sometimes they need to hear us say, I love you. Sometimes they need to hear us say, you did good work, you did a good job. Sometimes they need that appreciation. And I'll tell you what, coming from the person giving the appreciation in these stories I just told, it felt good on my end too. And it increased my joy and my love because I was able to express that and let it flow naturally. Love, God is love, and love is pure energy, as we've talked about in many other videos. But love, energy has to flow. It has to move back and forth. And part of that moving back and forth is acknowledgement and appreciation and showing what people mean to us in our life and being someone that they can eventually appreciate. Because we're all in this world thing together. We're all in this life thing together. And so let's do it lovingly and appreciating each other. So that, my friends, is my thought this morning. If you were here, you'd be Om now. So anyway, what topics do you guys want to talk about this morning? I am wide open. It is 12:12. Boy, I've been seeing these 12:12s all over the place. I don't. On my clock, it's 12:12. You guys will get it a little bit later, probably. But it's 12:12 on my clock right now. There's a delay from the recording to the actual streaming, so just by a few. But yeah, 12:12. So what questions do you have? Let's dive into it. And while I'm waiting for the first one, I'm going to take a drink of my coffee. Yes, I bow at the altar of Juan Valdez. Well, thank you so much, Charlene. I appreciate that. Good morning, Dina Cook. Oh, I love you too, my sister Patty. My sister Patty, for you guys that don't know, Patty Swimer's my sister, and I just outed her in the chat box. My sister Patty and I have been there's a special bond there. We kind of connect and kind of have those thoughts at the same time, kind of thing. And I remember, I'll tell you an interesting story about my sister Patty. I'm going to embarrass her a little bit. When I was a kid, I told everybody she was my favorite sister, and I had three of them, and I love all my sisters in various different ways, but I have to say I got a close connection with my sister Patty, and when she was a kid, she bought me a Kodak Instamatic camera. And when I was a 13-year-old kid, that was an amazing gift. That was like the most incredible gift ever. I was like, she bought me a camera. Oh, and you know what's cool about that is to me, that was such a big thing at that age. I was like, oh my God, she must really love me. There was a positive reinforcement from the sister that was my favorite sister. So there you go. Good morning, Muley. How are you this morning? Joyful spring. Yes, it is a joyful spring. It's kind of cold outside here. I don't know. What's it like where you guys are? Any place warm talking to us this morning? Melchizedek. I don't know a lot about Melchizedek. So I'd have to look into it and do some studies on Melchizedek. And I'll tell you what I'll do for you, Kathy. I will do some research on it and come up with some thoughts about it because I don't really have much to say, and a lot of like Old Testament stuff itself. I don't really dive into because most of the Old Testament, I think, is just mythology. And so 42 degrees. Well, I think we're about the same. I like Minneapolis. That's kind of cool. I think we're pretty much about the same temperature as you in Minneapolis. Let me real quick jump over here and see if I can find out. No, I got you beat. I'm 36 degrees here. 36 degrees. I woke up this morning. There was a little bit of dust on the back deck, but it seems to be gone now. Spring snow in western Maryland mountains. Where are you in the western Maryland mountains? Are you near Cumberland? I have a friend who lives in Cumberland. A friend who I haven't talked to in years, and really should reach out to him and let him know how much he's appreciated as well. But it's when you grow up with people, especially doing Renaissance festivals. You're at your place of enjoying a good time and having fun and all that stuff. But then, life takes over, and you have kids, and you go off and you do this stuff, and you kind of lose contact with people. It's kind of nice to reach out to have that contact again. But 60 in Atlanta. Normally this time of the year, for many, many years, I would be in Atlanta right now. I'd at least be heading that way because the Georgia Renaissance Festival is coming up soon, and I would have been one of the headlining acts there many, many years ago, back in the days of hair. So what spiritual topics do you want to talk about this morning, people? One more little swig here. 33 in Ontario. 45 minutes from Cumberland. Okay. 69 in Oklahoma. Every time I hear the name Oklahoma, I want to sing. So I'm not going to burden you people with that this morning. The Midwest has the spring of deception. You just never know. I love that. The spring of deception. Can I use that? I may use that on some funny posts. The spring of deception. We had a couple of 70-degree days there, and I was wearing shorts and flip flops, and I was outside, and then we had snow, and then we had snow, and then we had snow, and it was like none of it ever accumulated, but yeah, we had snow pretty much every day for several days there, and that was kind of depressing. Easter is coming up in a couple weeks. Do you have any traditions that you do for that? It's interesting. Easter is, for many Christians, it's a big, joy-filled religious experience. For me in my house, we would go to church. We would do the Easter stuff at church, but everything, and I'm sure this is for most people, everything was about the Easter bunny and chocolates and eggs and jelly beans. Everything was about that. So the concept of Easter has kind of been lost. My Greek friends celebrated Easter at a different time of the year than us because they had an older calendar. So the time of Easter doesn't have the big spiritual meaning for me that most ascribe to it. And I also have a very weird idea about Jeshua. I'm looking at his painting, staring at me over there. He is someone who really didn't want to be deified. And I think setting apart days of the year to say, look how glorious he is, I don't necessarily think he would approve. I don't necessarily think he would want us to do that. But even when I talk about the as far down as this is my body, this is my blood, and you eat and remember me when you eat and drink, right? And I've done videos on that topic before, but that was less about him. Remember these teachings daily. Remember these teachings in your everyday life. Remember these when you eat and drink. Remember these things. It was less about remembering him and more about living in your present moment, the teachings that he was bringing. And I recently did a video. By the way, I've got videos done all the way out to the 16th of this month. So we got some things in queue. He himself never wanted to be deified. He himself never wanted to be set apart. And it was one of those situations where he didn't even like me calling him teacher. In my regression, you hear me call him, I want to call him rabbi. And what I said to the regression is, I want to call him rabbi. She said, well, go ahead. And I called him rabbi. And that was the end of that portion of the regression. But he didn't like being called teacher either. He much preferred the concept or the idea of being just like us. Because he says, if I am just like you, you are just like me, and ye are gods, basically. And the idea of this is that he didn't want a hierarchy because he just had more information. It wasn't that he was better or smarter or anything. He just had more information. That's the way he thought about it. He's like, I have discovered something. Take heart. I have overcome the world. I've discovered something about us, about who we are, and that is so. Easter does not have a lot of big traditions for me, and it's actually at a point now where my son's 18, so the candy's going to go away. He's not going to like it because he's getting porty like his dad. Let me go up here. Keep your long undies on to the end of May. Like Hobbit's second breakfast, we have second winter. For a variety of reasons, I do not attend church. What are your thoughts on not attending church? I was raised in a Lutheran church. Even then, I had questions. Attending church is not necessary for your connection to God. Attending church is a organized religion practice. They want you to attend church. They want you to put money in the donation box, in the donation basket. They want you to give them the envelope. They want you to do all this. And we want to make sure you come to church. So let's make sure you have to get baptized to have no sins. Let's make sure you have to get confirmed to really solidify your faith in us. Let's make sure that if you ever get married, you marry someone of the same faith, and that you can create more kids for us to then baptize and confirm. Churches, wherever you are, my churches are walking in the woods out back. My churches are sitting here talking to you right now. My churches are my services. My church is my present life. God is I am. And I am in my church. And I don't even like using the word church. To me, church is, I think whenever I hear the word church, I think of Dana Carvey and Church Later. Satan, right? That's how I see it. It's unnecessary for your attainment of inner peace and tranquility. If you were here, you'd be home now. Boom, boom. Did watch Ben-Hur. Okay, well, Charlton Heston does a lot for us, right? Easter and Christmas. Always half hour late for Catholic service. You basically missed half the service. See, Easter and Christmas, that's the transition of recovery, right? You become an Easter Christmas Catholic or Easter Christmas churchgoer, and then what happens next is Easter falls away, because it's like, yeah, I could be like out and wandering around outside in my shorts and flip flops, and instead of getting all dressed up and going into a hot church, right? So that falls away, but you hang on to Christmas because of the incense and the music and the candlelight service. Yeah, that's the best way to hang on to it. But eventually, what happens is, God, I don't want to stay up for midnight mass, and you fall away from that too. So it's sort of the transition, because if you look at what you're supposed to be doing, I mean, when I was 8 years old, my brother took me to putt-putt golf and ice cream one Sunday morning instead of church because he didn't want to go. So he took me to putt-putt golf and ice cream, which was so much fun and so joyful. It was church. It was God. It was having a moment with my brother, right? The next week, the priest did a speech about mortal sin, and he talked about, all sin is bad, and then he mentioned that knowingly missing church was a sin, and I knew I was doomed, and I went to the highest power at the church there was, my mom. And I bawled, oh, I'm going to hell because I missed church last night. I screamed. My little life was flashing before my eyes. And then later that afternoon, my brother's life flashed before his eyes after Mom got home. But the idea is that fear of that 8-year-old child loving, and God is love, and that ice cream and that putt-putt golf, that was a joyful, loving experience. So where is church? Where is the connection to God? Where is the Om within? It's in the joyful moments. It's in the loving moments. It's in the putt-putt golf and the ice cream instead of the church, instead of the place where the priest can look down on you and tell you you're a sinner. It's wrong, in my belief. It's wrong to give yourself the psychological training of being trained every week to think you're a sinner and to focus on the bad things that you do in life rather than focusing on the good things you do in life. It's just a reminder that you mess up, and it really bothers me at times. It was weird that Jesus said that in the Bible, yet everyone in church had titles. First of all, I'd like to say Jesus didn't say anything in the Bible. The Bible was written mostly hundreds of years after, and none of the books are subscribed, none of the books are claimed to have been written by him. I'm sure there's the correct word in there. But when I read the Bible, I find that I have to read the Bible from the perspective of, is what being said loving or fearful and judgmental? And if it's fearful and judgmental, I dismiss it because my God is love. That was the promise that was made, is that our God is love. And so I look at the Bible as a mix of myth, propaganda, and some spiritual truth. That's how I kind of look at it. Good morning, John. Good morning, Lisa. Did Joshua know he would be crucified? According to the Bible, he was aware this would happen. He was aware he was going to be arrested. He was pretty much aware he was going to be put to death. I'm not sure he necessarily knew it was going to be a crucifixion, but he knew he was going to his death. And I've done videos on this actually a couple of times. He was a spiritual rock star, and his fame was getting big. And his biggest goal in life was to spread this information about our own personal divinity. And so what he did was he took a group of people, he gave them the teachings, and then he gave them places to go teach. You have to think of the disciples as more like Catholic bishops. They were in charge of a diocese, right? John was in charge of the area around Turkey. And that's why Ephesus was his resting place, right? So Jeshua knew once he got the teachings out and spread that he himself had to go. He himself had to be removed from the picture, because if he didn't remove himself, by removing himself, there was going to be less persecution than if he had stayed. Because now he told these people left, went to all these different other regions and started teaching. They went elsewhere, and the teaching spread. But he was no longer a hindrance to the teaching spreading. He was now the parable. He was now the myth. He was now the legend. He was now the thing that showed us as an example but he was not something to pray to or be deified. He was something to show as here is an example, and that's why he went to the cross, why he went to be taken. Felt closer to God riding a trail or skiing on a holiday. Absolutely. My personal church has always been the glorious great outdoors and practices kindness. Excellent. Beautiful. Good morning, Sugar's Mama. I missed the Christmas Eve service we went to as a child. You know what? I actually went out and I bought Catholic frankincense and myrrh to burn it in my house a little bit at Christmas. Discovered you don't want to burn a lot of that stuff because it'll pungent your house out quick. Just a little bit, just to have that smell at Christmas time. It was always good to me. That terrifying children because you can needs to stop. And what's interesting is when you look at statistically, churches in the United States are losing attendance quicker than imaginable. And what's interesting, even more so, is metaphysical and New Age centers are growing drastically. And what I find interesting is the ones that are transitional churches like Unity, who are Christian based but are open to other things. They are very interesting. Like I've spoken at Unity churches about my past life, and was very well received. Those churches are growing in attendance as well because they're different. They're more open. They're more caring. So many of us are traumatized by churches. Yep. Good rule to live by. If it doesn't sound/feel right, it's probably wrong for you. As I often say, spirituality is not a thinking, it's a feeling. And it comes into that feeling of source. If it feels loving and caring, it feels easy. If it feels om, as the joke would say, then that's what you do. That's what you follow. Thank you, Brent. I'm glad to have you here today. Yeah, and Muley, yeah, even trying to remove himself, they still build a power structure around him. And the Essenes, now here's something that is hotly contested by the followers of Dolores Cannon. The Essenes wanted him to raise an army and fight Rome. They wanted him to become the Messiah. They wanted him to become the Christ. They wanted him to become the king, and literally raise an army and fight Rome. And people always say, no, they didn't, because Dolores Cannon's, said they didn't. And you have to think back. So historically, the first armed conflict against Rome was by John the Essene. So my memories of the Essenes, I don't have a lot of them. The only memory I have is we avoided them because they wanted Joshua to become Messiah, and he wouldn't do it. And so, to me, it's a really interesting thing. And when I look at the power structure that was built around him, that was built by mostly by Greeks and Romans, right? Now, Greeks and Romans had hierarchical structures, Zeus and all that stuff, and then the Romans, came in, and then of course by the time the Nicene Council came around, then it got really structured, wrapped around pagan holidays and everything else. So it really has been lost. The original teachings were lost. And the Bible itself, as I said, is myth and legend and some truth in there, but you have to reach and find the truth. That's why I talk about universal truths all the time. You find the loving, caring things that you can find in the writings of Buddha and the Bhagavad Gita and the Quran and the Vakanamrut and the writings of Baha'u'llah. And you find the universal truths in all of them, and you go, okay, this feels beautiful, and it's in all of them, so this must be a universal truth. And when you look at the totality of universal truths, what you find is that you are the creator of your experience, and you are the deity of your life. You are the Christ. You are your own Messiah, and you've got to step into that role. The toughest part is stepping into the role, because we've been trained with our own self-doubt and our own self-worth to not think we're capable. And the reality of it is we're completely capable. We're 100% capable. And we need to step into the role. And, as that joke said, boy, that joke turned out really well. The joke said, you have pitfalls and challenges along the way, things that come up against you in a way. But the people around you are here as part of your journey and part of your assistance. And you're there for them. When they need you, you go. And you need them, they come. And so it's about all of us together, because we're all one. We're all connected with this one source, and this one source is us. It's all of us. And the key part is stepping into the role of creation, stepping into the role of creator, being the one who's saying, this is what I'm creating into my part of this world. Great, beautiful. I agree with you. I go with what rings true on the inside. Yeah, to me, it's an interesting thing, is that on this YouTube channel, I talk about all the time about how this channel is about me sharing my personal truths, and everybody must find their own pathway. Don't deify someone else. Find what rings true to you. Find what feels right to you. And if church feels right to you, that's okay. I respect that. If church doesn't feel right to you, or you feel judged, or you feel like you're a sinner, I would question it. I would question it, because if God is love and you and the Father are one, you are the child of God, why would you be anything less? Why would you be anything less? And I will tell you this, when you create out of fear and judgment and anxiety, you receive fear, anxiety, and judgment into your life. But when you focus on love and joy and peace and all that, you get that into your life. And, right now with everything that's going on in Ukraine, the more of us who can be love and peace and inner joy, and then not focus on that struggle, but focus on sending that love, peace, and inner joy to Ukraine and Russia, we can change it. We can change the experience, but it's a matter of us actually first coming to the point where we realize we are the creators. We are the ones who have that ability. Ram Dass said, keep running into the same situation with people we meet. They must have different faces they just have different faces until we learn what they're trying to teach us. Your outer expression is what's your belief and what you're creating. And if you're running into the same situation, it's because you haven't learned it yet. T. Jones, you're going to find my answer to this different. Your question is, do you think enlightenment is a journey or a destination? I think it's a choice. I think that the people don't make the choice because they don't think they're enlightened. You've got to believe that you're reaching the enlightenment. You've got to believe that you're reaching the space of understanding. You've got to believe that you are coming to the space of joyful, loving, and peace. And when you come to the joyful, loving, and peace within yourself, what happens is you realize enlightenment means to be enlightened, to be lighter, to not feel the weights and burdens of struggle in your life, to not feel the separation of yourself from love, because to be enlightened means you set down the burdens. When you look at Shakespeare talked about, in the To Be or Not to Be speech, he talks about, who would fardels bear? And fardels sounds like a disgusting word, but fardels means packs. It means burdens. It means who would carry these burdens? Who would carry these burdens? Who would fardels bear? to grunt and sweat under a weary life, but that the dread of something after death, the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveler returns, right? He's talking about who would go through life, who would go through all these struggles if they could just step to the other side. And it comes back down to choosing that you are doing it, that you are creating it, that you are being more loving, more caring, and less burdened, and lighter to become enlightened. I never felt judged. I just knew that something wasn't right. I always thought Jesus came to teach us how to have a relationship with our Creator. And it's an interesting statement. I would say Jeshua came to teach you that you are the Creator and one with the source that creates. Always come from love, which is the highest frequency. This transmutes the darker, lower frequencies. Law of attraction brings new energy to you. I respect your beliefs. I disagree. I disagree wholeheartedly, actually. And the reason I disagree wholeheartedly is this creates a duality of lower frequencies and dark energies. And I don't believe in dark energies or lower frequencies. I believe that is a New Age dogma that has come about and been really propagated by the Abraham Hicks stuff. But I believe that God is love, and our fear being here is shielding us from seeing that love. But it's not a dark energy. There's no energies that are out to get you. There's no something that's evil. Evil does not exist except in your mind. Shakespeare said, "There's nothing good nor bad, but thinking makes it so." Your thoughts are creative. Your thoughts are bringing dark energies, if that is your belief. And so, for me, and I respect your beliefs, if that's your journey, if that's what you feel you need to do, God bless you. I respect that, because everyone has to follow their own truth. For me, I will never subscribe to dark energies and of that sort, because I just don't believe it. It doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't resonate with me. The vibration conversation is another conversation as well. And frequencies, same thing. There you go. I choose enlightenment. There you go. I choose it, right? I am receiving enlightenment. If when you get into the belief of receiving something, you start to see evidence of it. You start to see the realization of it. And real, creating. It's in this life, in this moment, you are creating something into your life. It's funny when I talk on these videos. Muley, I respect that answer. However, I would say that is a perception and that is a choice. Fear is, in my opinion, is not a dark energy. Fear is the illusion of the absence of love. And I specifically call it the illusion because fear itself is a choice. Because if you think about what fear actually is an emotional reaction to a future event that may or may not happen with you focused on a negative outcome. Because if you were not focused on a negative outcome, you're focused on a positive one, you wouldn't be afraid. So fear is just negatively focused uncertainty. So it's a matter of stepping into the role of being positively focused rather than negatively focused. I disagree wholeheartedly with the entire concept of dark energy. How does that square with the idea of duality? Great question. Do you believe in duality? I believe in oneness. There's the difference. God is, the Father and I are one. Jeshua was an example, and he said the Father and I are one. We are one with God. We are one with everything. There is no need for a duality. There is no need for a polarity. That is all dogmatic belief that has been thrust upon you. There has to be a devil if there's a God, right? No, there doesn't. Because even the devil that they talk about in Christianity was not invented until the 1300s when Dante wrote his Inferno. Before that, Lucifer was just a fallen angel, right? Someone who fell to earth. And the entire structure of the levels of hell and all that stuff didn't happen until 1300. And so that's my thought on that. My thoughts on the different frequencies. 5D is a new age update to the rapture. I agree with you 100%. And it's the whole 5D thing is there's nothing in any ancient text about it. It's definitely a New Age dogma, and the whole and the rapture. Everybody talks about the rapture. The rapture wasn't invented until 1830 when Minister Darby heard a dream by a Scottish boy and created the rapture around it. 1830 had nothing to do with anything biblical. It is not in the Bible. I've had people argue that it's in the Bible. The word rapture is in the translations of the Bible. An event called the rapture is not anything biblical. It is not in there. And it wasn't in there, and it will not be in there because you won't find it in there because it wasn't invented until 1830 when Minister Darby did it. So there is only fear and love. Yeah, and here's the mind bender, Hari. Here's the mind bender. There is only one fear, and it's the fear of not being loved. Because fear is an illusion. It's an emotional response, as I said before. It's the negatively focused on I don't have love. And that's the only fear there is, in my belief. Love that answer. I have to roll that around. Duality is just an earthly perception. Exactly. Almost everything that we're talking about today on this stream is all about earthly perceptions. It's about trying to wrap thought around something spiritual, around a feeling, around it's that's all religions are. That's all New Age dogma is. That's all. I had someone the other day talk about. Somebody sent me a video, and people are sending me videos now. By the way, I'm gonna have to stop answering some of these videos because people are sending me videos on the contact board. And they're saying, "What are your thoughts on this video?" Then I have to take time out of my day to watch their video, formulate my thoughts. But like I hear people oftentimes, especially New Age people, talk about, well, we know that there's 3 chakras in the heart, and there's this chakra, this chakra. Doesn't say that anywhere, right? And the interesting thing is that even the chakra system is a theory. There is no measurement for it. There is no way of doing it, But for me, when I hear people talk about things as facts, it's like when I hear scientists say, well, we know the Big Bang happened and this happened. No, they don't. The Big Bang is a theory. The Big Bang is a theory. And those theories, when people start saying they are fact, muddle the fact that it might not be fact. It might, that's why when people ask me about reincarnation, the first thing I say is I don't understand reincarnation. I can't say it's a fact because I don't know. It's wrong of me to say I know. I know I have these memories. That's the one thing I do know. But I know also that if I was to say I understood why I have these memories, I would be lying. I would be telling a falsehood, and I would be creating a mythos around something that is not helpful to anybody. I'm on a journey just like you're on a journey, and all of us need to find our own personal truth. For me, I have these memories. So what do? I don't know where these memories come from. I don't know why I have them, but I do know that I believe what I've learned, and I talk from what I've learned. And I want people to understand that it literally is all of us on our own personal journeys. Yeah, Kirlian photography is a very interesting thing. And talking about auras around the body, I have seen energy around bodies too. But I think it's the very definition or defining of it as a certain thing that limits what it can be. Joe, that is brilliant. Argue for your limitations and they're yours. That is brilliant. That's just it. It's not a thinking, it's a feeling. And when you start naming chakras and you start pointing out things and you start naming, and you're going into your head, you're not going into the feeling. When I had my biggest experiences spiritually, my out of body experience, my near death experience, my astral travel experience, my seeing energy and auras around things, it was all about letting go of what it is and just being and feeling. When I was when I had my first out of body experience, let me go back. When I had my first Kundalini rising experience, I was bringing that heat and energy up through my body. And I've told you guys this story before, but when I got to my chest, it wouldn't go any further. But then I heard, relax into it. It didn't say think into it. It didn't say define into it. It said relax into it. Relaxation is a feeling. It's a letting go. It's an enlightenment. By letting go of the structure, the constructs, the modalities, you find what you're looking for. You find the Om within you. You know, I'm looking for inner peace and tranquility. That's what Susan in the joke said, right? I'm looking for inner peace and tranquility. And the whole time she was at the top of the mountain, she could hear that guru, Om, just sitting in the feeling. And he says, if you were here, if you were where I am, you'd be Om now. You'd be in the space of enlightenment now. You'd be in the place of enlightenment now. You wouldn't be thinking about how I climbed the mountain, all the issues to get here, the ropes, the harnesses, all the stuff. You wouldn't be thinking about all the modalities of getting there. You would be just being. And where can you be something? You can only be something in the here and now. You can only be something in the present moment. You can only be something in the God moment. God's name is I am, not I will be or I was. And his name definitely is not this is how. It's not God's name. God's name is I am. What are you? You must be the change you wish to see in the world. Gandhi said that. You must be. Being is not thinking, doing, acting upon, or using a specific modality to get to. That's a journey, that's a path. And what Yeshua said was when you seek a path will be laid before you. But until you turn the path to yourself, you'll never find the door. Whew, that was a lot. and you know, at Kirlian photography, the mere concept of Kirlian photography is interesting because the person taking the photography had beliefs. He was looking for chakras. So what did the photography show him? His exact belief. The earth is a sticky place. So many ideas and things cling to us. That, my friend, is a present moment belief. I am Teflon. Things slide right off of me. Something different, right? Wow, wow, wow. Okay, what are you wow? What are you wowing, Robert? I was wondering how you feel about the COVID shot situation. Is it showing fear and doubt if you get the shot? If you have asked for and believe protection from all risks of ill health? I don't think about it. I just feel, and I will tell you, I'm going to schedule my second booster here pretty soon. I've done them all. I have no fear of getting the shot. It can't hurt me. You know, you can look at this from, am I afraid of COVID or am I afraid of the shot? Which are you afraid of? You know, you may still get COVID even if you get the shot, but I'm not afraid of any of it. But, you know, okay, we get a shot. Who cares? Doesn't matter to me. But for me, I'm getting totally boosted all the way. I'm getting there. Robert, I'm not sure what the word "reached" means. Increased. There's probably a C there. Increased understanding. Okay, good. Good. And as long as it feels right to you, Robert, that's the key. Doesn't matter what I say or anybody else says. You know, Buddha says, believe no one, even me, unless it rings true to you. So you must take that and find your own personal truth. Oh, thank you, T. Jones. That's absolutely lovely. I love having these conversations. Oh, I have no fear of giving a shot to someone. I think it's if you think that they need it, then it's a loving thing to do. I am what I am, and that's all that I am. What are you going to call it, baby oils? Popeye the Sailor. Robin Williams, when he did that, that was the line that he came up with. It. What are you going to call it? Baby oils? um, love it. Love it. Sorry to miss, just joining. Hello, V-Ron. Looking forward to watching. Mary Meyer, absolutely. What did Mary Meyer say? Yeah, good. Absolutely. I love how these discuss. You know, I love this. I love how these discussions open my awareness. That's a beautiful statement. It's your awareness. Are you have to listen to it and go, okay, is this what I believe? And if not, that's great. I fear giving them COVID. Then there you go. If you fear giving them COVID, give them a shot. You know, not giving virus to someone else. Okay. I've had so many inoculations in my life at this point. What could it matter? And I'll tell you what, when you do USO shows and you go to Djibouti, Africa, you get more shots than you can possibly imagine. And I did that. Well, the question is, Mary, are you afraid of the shot? Is that why you're not willing to do it? Jinx. I'm not afraid of anything. Shot felt right to me, so I did it. See you, Hari. Thank you for coming. It was a pleasure to have you here. The vaccines, I think it doesn't matter. To me, well, let me put it this way. I don't know whether my godparents were vaccinated or not. I just don't know. But I do know they lost 3 people in their family. From COVID and complications from COVID. So could they have still survived if they were vaccinated? I don't know if they were or weren't, but I think that we probably wouldn't have lost that many if they were vaccinated. Oh, yeah. Well, let's not focus on spreading the illness. Let's focus on being healthy. I am healthy. I am joyful, and I am going through that. But then, part of that process might be getting the vaccination. Workings of the body are truly amazing, micro to macro. I completely agree, and I have seen amazing healings. And as I've said before, I've seen kids stand up from wheelchairs, and deaf people hear, and people with cancer no longer have cancer. I've seen all those things, and it was all through belief. But when you run into a quandary like vaccinations or not to get vaccinated, if you think about do I get vaccinated or do I fear the vaccination? Do I get vaccinated because I fear COVID, or do I get vaccinated, or do I not get vaccinated because I fear the vaccine? So the lesser of two evils is, we know scientifically now, especially, the vaccinations don't kill people, they don't harm people, and there is no tracking device that the QAnon people are trying to say, right? We know that's one element of it. But it comes down to, I can fear COVID or I can fear the vaccine, but if I get the vaccine, I probably won't get COVID. So it's the lesser of two fears, is to take the vaccine. So well, I love this. Hang on, let me go get the one before that, just because. Einstein, I love that Einstein quote. Thank you, Kathy. Doesn't some fear protect us, fight or flight? Absolutely. But what's interesting, the fight or flight response is based upon the idea of survival, physical survival in the physical world. And the fight or flight response is interesting because we still today process through an ancient fight or flight response. The reason our fear response is the way it is, we still have the same primal reactions to fear now that we did then. And here's the proof. So there's a gazelle. Every episode of National Geographic has a doomed gazelle, and that doomed gazelle's out there in the field and it's chewing its grass, right? And a lion hits the field. The first thing that happens is the gazelle goes, gasp for air. Well, that gasping for air is something we still do today. You know, when you see your child almost fall and hit his head on the coffee table, first thing you do is go, what is that? That is your body trying to store air so you can run further and faster. Most people, when they're afraid, they feel like they can't breathe. Well, it's not because they can't get air. It's because their body's conserving air. Your body has more air than they'll ever need so it can run further and faster. So what's the first thing they tell you in almost any spiritual practice? Breathe. And you find at the bottom of every breath is the connection to source. But when you hold that breath in, you're denying yourself connection to source. You're denying yourself the connection to that feeling of God. And when you shut off the fear response, you shut off the primal fight or flight response. And I'm quoting the word primal. Primal meaning from ancient times, from ancient caves, from ancient Stone Age people, right? But it's very highly unlikely that you're going to get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger today. It's very highly unlikely. Now you can live in the reaction of a primal response that has been ingrained into you for centuries and millennia, or you can choose not to be a reaction zero and choose to be an action hero. You stay into the space of, what am I doing? I am doing this, and do something different, and you create a different response. Crocodilian response, non-thinking sympathetic response. I'll have to look into that definition because I've never heard that expression, crocodilian response, before. I'll have to look into that. I still think it's these vessels that we live in want to survive so that they can become vessels. They're just creating vessels for us to ride our souls in. So we still have our reptile brain. I don't know. I think we're diving off into some deep topics here, and once you dive off into science has no faith, because science only has empirical evidence. But I've seen things that defy science, and when a deaf person hears who's never been able to hear their entire life, that defies the science of it, right? So, see you, Robert. It was a pleasure to have you here. Hey guys, it is 1:00. Well, that was a fast one this morning. Steve, I will look into a crocodilian response and our reptile brain. I will dive into that and see what I think about all that. Science as we know it. Yeah, that's Mary. Before I go, I want to say this. I find it fascinating that all the super smart science people, you see these quotes over here, say things like, aliens could never make it to us because the distances are too vast. No, aliens, for all we know, might have more scientific advancement than us. They talk about the Big Bang Theory, but the fascinating thing about the Big Bang Theory is when they measure the expansion point is Earth. So why is it expanding from here? Everything is going away from us from here. So why are we the center of the universe? Well, I think we're the center of the universe is because it's our thought created. Our thoughts are creating. And the reason it's expanding is because we keep thinking further out. We keep thinking bigger and broader, and we look further out. And we make telescopes to look further out, and those things expand because we ourselves are expanding in our consciousness. Steve, I think that you are very deep in your science mind. And I think it's not a thinking, it's a feeling. I would get back into being and more into the concept of feeling. Because as long as you go down the pathway of trying to decipher and label and create pathways, you're not going to find the doorway. It's not there. It's in the feeling. It's in the feeling space. And Sugar's mama, I love you to death. None of us have pea brains. Brains are the wilderness in which we wander. It's our feelings. We just stay with our feelings. So you guys have a great day. I'm going to head out of here because it is after 1. This has been a really good one today. I thank you so much for a very open conversation. And remember, everything I said today was something for you to decide whether it feels right to you. I respect every one of your beliefs, and I respect each one of you finding your own pathway. I do believe it's a feeling, not a thinking, and that's my truth. So find your own truth. You guys have a great day, and it's been lovely, and I will talk to you again. New closer. Thank you for joining us at the Live Loving live stream. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and visit us at johnofnew.com.